I know I don't. This is a dumb thing to say, but I'm jealous of your sadness right now.
No,
I wish I got motivated like that in any way. I know it's not just kind of like it's not you being like gotta fucking fix my life. Blah, blah, blah. It's just like that's what your body wanted to do, so you did it.
Yeah.
I wish at any point my body was like, you know what you want to do? Walk. You want to walk uphill until you can't anymore. Like, man.
To Noah Snark, where two former religious types and current snarks take a look at religious media on its own terms.
I am Hillary.
And I am Josh, aka the arms of a serpent. Because there's nothing cooler than a serpent with arms.
If you are the arms of a serpent, though, you were very short-lived.
That makes sense for me.
Yeah, it does right now.
I'm 31 now. I will not make it to 32.
Don't even say it.
You know what? For a second, I was going to say 35.
I'm not going to lie. My whole life, I never thought I'd make it to 30 for whatever reason. So every day feels like a gift.
I agree.
I wish we'd be happier.
And that's when my body tried to self-destruct at 25.
Yep.
And yet, I beat that too.
Yeah, were you disappointed also?
That I won?
That you made it to 30?
No, it was just, oh, look at that, I'm 30.
Yeah, my 30th birthday, I'm like, really? All right. Well, what do I do
Apparently
now?
it's a family.
I made no plans.
Apparently it's a family trait. Because my dad, when I was talking to my dad recently, he told me, like, I never expected to make it to 50. And when he got to 50, he was, like, lost. Like, what do I do? Like, what do I do?
The idea of the fact that I even have a retirement, like, savings is 100% because my dad made me. But also, like, I was like, what's the point in retirement savings if I'm not going to live that long? But once I made it to 30, I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm going to live forever. I got to get some plans in order.
Yeah. All right, but let's talk about some hits and misses from previous episodes we want to talk about.
I have nothing.
I have one thing.
Okay.
Because I was listening to our Loving the Bad Man episode.
Okay.
And I didn't bring this up in the episode proper. Okay. It's not a defense of the movie, because I would never. It's a defense of drunks.
Yes.
Because in the movie, and if you aren't familiar, listen to that episode. It came out like 3 weeks ago. Figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out. They're labeled.
He gets really, really drunk.
Yeah.
And then he meets the main character, Julie.
Yes.
And he decides, oh, she's rude. I should, like, sexually assault her. And then the whole movie sort of just explains it away as he was really drunk.
That? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't believe that because you are drunk, you will begin to rape people. And I don't buy the premise of the film that believes that is the case.
I think we mentioned that, didn't we? At some point? Didn't we talk about how...
Maybe. I was about halfway through it.
How ridiculous an idea it was that, like, because he was drunk...
We mentioned him being blackout.
Right.
And we mentioned the incident, obviously.
Oh, no, because you made a comment, and you were like, you said something to the effect of, oh, fuck. I literally, obviously, you and I know, I just listened to this.
Yes. But yeah, I don't know for certain if we mentioned it, but if not, I'm going to reiterate the point.
Okay.
You do not get drunk and just randomly rape people. That's not how it works.
When rapists get drunk, they rape.
Right.
When normal people get drunk,
yes,
that is not a thing that is going to...
Nor is it ever an excuse.
No.
It's stupid, and it's dumb to portray it in a movie, okay? He was just a piece of shit, and that's what happened. And he was also drunk at the time. Especially,
like, a violent, aggressive.
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up, Josh. That is a good thing for us to...
Now that we covered our hits and misses, let's talk about what we are doing today.
Today we are doing Superbook.
Superbook. Yes. It's a show about a really super book.
The superest of books.
What's the superest book?
The Bible, Josh.
The Bible.
Yeah.
So, Superbook, from what we understand from Hannah, who told us about this, was an anime. And like a proper anime, not just an animated show that people call anime, because they don't know that anime is anime. Actually made in Japan by a Japanese company.
For Japanese people.
That
with support from the CBN in America, so it was kind of a dual thing that we're trying to spread.
But it was a proper anime in Japan for Japanese audiences. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was Bible stories. Mm-hmm. And recently, CBN has remade some of it. Rebooted using computer animated graphics.
Right.
And
changed up a little bit, made more modern.
Right. And that's what this Superbook is. We might do old Superbook one day.
Yeah.
But this is what I found first, so I'm sticking with it.
Yeah. The original was just, I think it was from 80, I wrote it down, from like 81 to 83.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm not going to say there's a direct correlation, but the Doomsday Group, Om Shinrikyo, was founded in 84. Heavily influenced by the Bible.
Yes, they were.
So, coincidence? Japan learned about the Bible, and then some people decided they were Christ.
That's
just a correlation my brain made.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. But yeah, Superbook is basically Bible stories animated. You get it. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about Superbook.
Okay.
And the first way we do that is describing it in one sentence.
I have one sentence, Josh.
Go for it.
Children's show that teaches the importance of blind obedience and why women deserve painful periods.
I went on a similar route. A sentient UFO kidnaps children and puts them in horribly dangerous situations to teach them about God.
Yep. Yes.
So
we're in for a treat.
Yeah, we're having a good time. So let's just go ahead and start. You have anything you want to say before we start?
No.
All right. So episode 1, because we watched episodes 1 and 2. Episode 1 of Superbook begins, and it's called In the Beginning. And appropriately, the first words we hear are the beginning of the Bible / Torah / Old Testament / whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Yeah.
And then it's a bunch of, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read you the Bible right now.
It's like a CG version of, the opening of Planet Earth, the docu-series. I kind of liked it.
I was going to say, it's a fairly dynamic creation of the world scene. It's kind of interesting.
I actually like the music. The music is kind of fun.
Because we dive through nothingness until plants and oceans begin to exist. And then we get some super dope animals, like wildebeests and lions.
Yeah.
And this is all very active. And it's not just like, look, it's a thing. Look, it's a thing. It's like a nature documentary when you're a kid.
No, it's like Planet Earth. That's why I said
Planet Earth, yeah. I don't associate Planet Earth because I didn't see it when I was a kid, but...
yeah.
But yeah.
I've watched it so many times now. My brother and I occasionally like to smoke some pot and watch Planet Earth.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting, and then God created man and woman in his likeness. But we don't get to see any glorious Eve titty, or Adam Donger.
Nope, but those children do.
We're going to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
But Adam and Eve cuddle while looking at the glorious sunset, and our narrator comments that God looked upon all he had done and saw that it was good. So far, I thought we were off to a really good start.
I thought so, too. I was a little stoked on it.
And I want to make a minor point that I think is important to mention. It looks like Adam and Eve were created in Africa, and the show is embracing that. And that's pretty cool. Because usually they're...
I didn't make that connection. I guess because most of the animals shown, you're right, were African.
And they're in sort of like a desert area, and the geography's very African.
It does look like they're kind of like in a oasis type thing in the middle of a desert.
Yeah. And I mean,
that could be anywhere.
Right.
At that time period.
It's maybe the Middle East, but still it's African, if not North African.
Right.
And I was just like, look at that. They're actually embracing the fact that civilization started in Africa.
That's a very good point. I did not notice that.
So I'm just slightly proud of them for getting it right. They're still white as hell, to be fair.
Oh my god.
Which is complete BS. They are super white.
Super white.
But at least they don't, look upon the sunset shining over the Liberty Bell or some shit.
It's not in the middle of Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and they're like, we're Adam and Eve, we're Americans. You know what I mean?
Eve's not draped in the flag. She's just draped in her own weirdly thick, long hair.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's move on to our main characters, where we meet main boy Chris Quantum and his robot Gizmo.
Which has to be like a Jimmy Neutron take.
Absolutely.
Because the original, I looked it up, and the original Superbook, his name was like Jimmy Peepers. Or no, Chris Peepers was his name.
Peepers?
Yeah, or Peeper.
Stupid.
I can see why they changed it, but yeah. Okay. Chris Quantum.
Well, they're going for it, because we're going to learn right now that they have their ears to his dad's door. Because they're trying to spy on what Dad's doing in there.
Yeah.
But they're interrupted by our main girl, who is Joy. And I guess she's not related, is she?
She's the next door neighbor.
She just hangs out all the time?
Yeah, I guess so.
Constantly?
I, again, had to look that up, because I thought they were brother and sister at first, and then later something gets mentioned.
Right here, they explain that Dad's been working for weeks on a top-secret project, and he won't even let Chris go in the lab, and so he just wants to know what's up. And before that, Joy had approached him and was like, Chris Quantum, what are you doing? I was like, why is she calling her brother by his last name? So this whole time I was like, she must not.
She just lets herself in the house.
Yeah.
I've had friendships like that.
I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
But Chris has agreed to stay out of the lab because he's obedient to his dad. But at this time, Dad comes out. Just in time to talk about how he's out of some science thing he needs. So he's gonna run for it.
Terrible fake science word.
Yeah, just stupid fake science word. And he's like, you make sure you stay out of the lab. And Chris is like, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
And of course, Dad walks about 3 feet away, and Chris is like, I'm gonna open that damn door. Because it wouldn't be a kid's show if he actually followed through on his...
Absolutely. What lesson would he have to learn if he already knew to obey?
Right. So Joy and Chris and Gizmo all go inside to discover a personal jetpack. And Joy goads Chris into trying it on over the protestations of Gizmo, who was saying, you should behave yourself.
Right, women, man.
She's like, do it. Do it, you little bitch. Can you imagine if that was...
I wish.
But predictably, the jetpack that Chris puts on short circuits, and he tries it on, he flies around the room, and he crashes his head into almost everything.
Yep.
Ruining the entire lab, making a huge mess, and there's no way that they're going to get this cleaned up in time for Dad to come back. And to add to the mess that they've made, Superbook, which is the sentient UFO I was talking about.
Yes.
Because it's like a little...
It's weird. It's a discus.
Yeah, it's like a discus.
Yeah.
And it begins to activate, and it pulls the three into a...
Yeah, this is supposed to be like a future. It's like sometime in the future, like 2026 or something, I think is what it said online. So I guess in the future, all books are just...
Little discs.
Yeah, I guess it's like the next generation of, the Kindle.
Yeah.
Where it's like all of their books is in this one little thing.
Oh, that's why it's Superbook.
Yeah. Sure.
It's like every book is on this one book?
Maybe. Or the only book you need, which is...
The Bible.
The Bible.
But Superbook kidnaps these kids and pulls them into a time and a place, in its own words. A time and a place when disobedience destroyed the world. Because Superbook is also super nanny and teaches lessons to these children.
Yes.
Rather than... Because we know that Chris's dad has been working in the lab for, days.
Right.
So he's not raising this kid.
No.
His mom's not even in this episode.
There's a chance he doesn't have one.
He does have one.
Oh.
We meet her in the next one.
I don't remember that.
But she's not around. So clearly Superbook takes care of these kids. And so as soon as they land, Gizmo can't determine their time or location. But they come across a pretty dope-looking angel, who is Michael.
Yeah, they got some sexy-ass angels.
Right? And he welcomes them to heaven, the perfect gift that God has promised to all of his children. Mm-hmm. It's amazing, says Chris. And admittedly, heaven looks impressive, but I don't know if I'd call it omnipotent impressive.
No, I'm 100% with you. They don't really show much of it. It's just like clouds and a gate.
Yeah, and it's fancy. It's cool. Yeah. It looks high-tech and gold. But it's you're the creator of everything and can do anything you want.
Yeah.
This is what you made. Oh, God.
Gotta really get those creative juices flowing more.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You made a platypus. Come on. But a trumpet blast is heard. Michael and all the other angels fly off to respond to it. And as they do, we see one last angel who's been left behind. Mm-hmm. And he insists that he is God's greatest work and shall ascend above all of creation.
He looks exactly like the other angel, except for with long hair, because he's a bad guy.
That's right. And it's blonder. Michael's is more browny.
Right.
But they're both kind of blonde.
They're both blondish, but this one has long hair.
And so he's clearly rallying, and we see behind him now that there's a whole army of angels, and they're set to attack heaven itself. So if it wasn't obvious before, this is Lucifer, or Satan, if you're more familiar with that name. And so now we see a battle scene begin between the heavenly host and the freedom fighters. That's what I'm calling them.
Okay.
If you've read Paradise Lost, that's what Satan was really fighting for.
100%.
So we hear the clash of blades and we see some tackling, and I had a moment where I was like, oh, this is going to be really boring.
Yeah.
No, because we immediately find out what happens when an angel is hit with a flaming sword, and every angel has a flaming sword. They fucking disintegrate.
They do. And I think he collected wings.
Oh, maybe.
Remember that time where, remember that time? I don't know why I started whatever. Lucifer was, fighting 3 angels at once.
Yeah.
And he just, kind of becomes this, gray cloud, tornado cloud.
Yeah, he whirlwinds.
Sword. Yeah, so you can kind of see a sword in it. And he, swirls around these 3 angels. And then he, when he comes back out, they're all dust. Mm-hmm. And he has, 2 or 3 pairs of wings on his back.
Oh.
So I guess you can, absorb wings.
Oh, I don't know about that. I didn't notice it, but cool.
Cool, yeah. But also, eventually, when it's just the wings get in each other's way, I feel like too many wings is a problem.
The more wings you have, the higher angels. Actually, I'm making a joke, but that's true.
Oh.
In a lot of, like, mythology and Jewish, like, angel myths especially, higher rank angels have more wings.
All, like, in normal wing places or, like, around their body? Like
normal wing places. So, like, you just, I guess, put them on your back. So, like, a normal, boring angel would have, like, one set.
Right.
But the higher you go, you get, like, I think, like, up to 6
Holy crap.
pairs of wings. So it's like,
heavy.
Yeah, but it makes you fly better.
Oh.
I don't know.
I don't know how aerodynamics work.
But yeah, so angels, like, fucking completely disintegrate when they get hit.
Yeah.
And I had the question, like, are they dead? Or do they just get reconstructed elsewhere?
I always have these questions.
Can an angel die?
I mean, there's, like, when you cut off an angel's wings on Earth, Dogma taught me that they become human and can die.
Right, but then they still go to an afterlife.
Yeah, probably hell because they are fallen angels.
Right, but that was the problem with that movie.
Right.
If they cross that threshold, they'll go to heaven.
Right.
But, like, either way, they clearly get an afterlife.
Right.
So, what happens if you die in the afterlife?
I don't know, Josh.
Or get disintegrated, I guess.
This needs to be discussed more.
But it doesn't matter because we actually get a proper battle scene, and that was exciting for me.
Yeah.
And like Hillary was saying earlier, Lucifer has this cool whirlwind maneuver, and he fucks up, like, 4 dudes.
Yeah.
And then Michael finally comes to try to stop him. And I guess he has a brief moment, and he offers Michael a spot by his side above the rest of creation, but Michael refuses because he serves the Lord. Yeah. And it's a pity, says Lucifer, but now it's come to a fight. Mm-hmm. And so they duel, and Lucifer clearly has the upper hand for just a second. But Michael calls upon the name of the Lord, and he stuns Lucifer just long enough to throw him to the ground, right where the 2 kids and the robot are watching all this unfold. This, like, huge plateau on the other side of the world.
A lot of violence these kids are witnessing.
I know. But Lucifer attempts to climb back up to the plateau, and he asks the kids for help, because he has the power to grant them their wildest dreams. And of course, they don't have time to answer before Michael just shows up and casts Lucifer from heaven. And on his way down, he turns into the stereotypical version of Satan that we're familiar with.
Right.
With he's red.
Yeah, his pretty angel wings turn into, like, those, like, bat-like.
Right, and he's red with black eyes or something, or black with red eyes.
Way cooler.
He's got claws.
Yeah.
He's got a deeper voice now.
He goes metal.
Metal. But the winner is Michael, obviously. And so Joy asks why Lucifer would do this, because Michael's still hanging out. And Michael responds that he thought he could be like God, but he gets to fly away all smug and triumphant. They've put down the bad guys. Mm-hmm. And so the kids look around, they're like, what the hell? Right before Superbook transports them into the future, I guess, into the Garden of Eden. Mm-hmm. Not the future of the show, the future of the creation of the time.
They're scooting right through.
Right. And now they end up in the Garden of Eden, where they are greeted by Adam and Eve. And
full frontal nudity.
Full frontal. Not that we see.
It's very disturbing that the kids don't have a different reaction to seeing grown adults naked.
I was having this exact thought, because I want to give the show a little credit, because Adam and Eve are clearly fully nude.
Yes.
Like, and they cover up with clever camera shots and stuff.
Right.
But, like,
they don't, like, glue a fig leaf to them or anything. It's just.
But Gizmo uses his little robot mind to give them clothing and some sort of interface.
It's like a paper doll situation. Yeah.
But the kids are just looking at these 2 grown-ass naked people, and they're fine.
Yeah. Did it not make you think that maybe this wasn't the first grown adult they've seen fully nude?
It would have to be. Yeah. And that gives me great concern.
Yeah. It's a little girl, because she's really getting an eyeful. Mm-hmm. Should be like, what? Yeah,
this is a full-grown naked man.
Yeah. In front of a 7-year-old or 8-year-old or whatever.
She might be like 11, but it's still 11. Too young to have seen a full dick.
Yeah. Disconcerting.
And Chris, he takes it in stride too, and he's a small child. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. He is having the time of his life right now.
Except you can't actually see anything of Eve because her hair is so long.
He can see it.
There's a butt.
Hey. I was an 11-year-old boy once, okay? Trust me.
It's enough.
It's enough. And we don't know, like, the general situation, but I'm sure he's...
Right.
Just
focused.
He's Chris Pieper in this one. They are eventually confronted by a lion. And so the kids are very nervous and they try to run away because they think it's going to attack them for food before it just sits over and snuggles with Adam. And when Joy mentions their initial fear of it, Adam asks, why would it eat you? And so this is a type of theology you may not be familiar with. But my guess is that this show is going with the all animals were vegetarian before the fall of man.
This is new information to me.
Yes, some people who believe in a literal creation.
Right.
When Adam and Eve eat from the garden, or eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Right.
That's when death entered the world. No one died before that.
Right.
Which means that every animal, even lions and tigers and bears, were completely vegetarian.
All right.
Yep. Why did they have claws and sharp teeth? Just cause.
Well, why do we have canines, Josh?
It's just cool. So this show is probably going that angle. Clearly. So that's fun. They're super, if that's true.
No, that seems, because they also, like, they say the whole, like, if you eat from the tree of knowledge, then you'll know good and evil, and, you know, you will know death. So that's clearly, literally what they're going for.
Yeah, they're just going with a very, very literal, unusual version of creation where lions were vegetarian.
Cool.
But as the kids explore Eden, we also see Lucifer, who is now Satan, plotting menacingly. And he sort of hangs out in the bushes and does snake things because he's a snake now.
Yeah, with little arms.
Yeah, with little
pretty cute little snake,
arms.
Actually.
And his new plan is to make Earth his new domain. So, of course, we're going to have to see how that works for him. And the kids hang out in the garden for a while. They try the absolutely delicious food. And Adam points out that they can eat anything except the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And I feel like they really need to tighten that name. Like, I know it was 10,000 years ago and, like, they weren't super clever.
Right.
But they really got to tighten up the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
It definitely sounds like a translation name.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I'm sure it has, like, a single word name.
Right.
And, of course, the kids are say, why? Why can't you eat from there? And Adam says, because God said so. And God only wants the best for us, so anything he wants, we do. And so Chris reflects on his disobedience in entering the lab, while the others head off for Adam's favorite waterfall. Truly, he's like, you want to see my favorite waterfall? They're like, yeah!
This is my second favorite waterfall.
There's also two.
Speaking of
so
eternity,
that's my favorite.
As beautiful as this garden is,
yeah.
Wouldn't want to spend eternity there.
I'm telling you.
Pretty boring.
But a voice in his head, a voice in Chris's head, tells him not to worry, because his father will forget everything. And Chris turns a corner just in time to see the wriggling in the bush, and that is, of course, armed serpent Satan.
Yeah.
And of course, did
it remind you of Trogdor?
Oh yeah, the little
yeah, with his little beefy
one arm.
Yeah.
And so that night, Chris warns Joy that he thinks he saw Satan, but Joy isn't worried because they watched him fall into a pit.
Yeah.
And he says, I know, that's what worries me. Like, that's why I'm concerned about it. You dumbass.
Yeah.
All right. But in the morning, Adam and Eve are picking fruit from a tree, though not the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Right, looks like a fig tree.
Right. And so Satan comes down and he asks Eve if God truly said they cannot eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. She says, no, we cannot, because we will surely die. But Satan's snake tells her she shall not die. She's been forbidden by God because God knows that when they eat the fruit, the humans will become like God, and therefore know good and evil. And so Eve, convinced by this, immediately picks the fruit.
Good argument.
And when she doesn't die from having touched it,
right,
Satan points out that, look at that, you touched it and you didn't even die. So she's like, I should put this in my mouth.
Satan's fun.
Also, good rule in your life.
What?
I haven't died when I touched it. I should put it in my mouth.
Yeah, definitely. That's what infants do.
And that's why infants are well known for being stupid. And so a shock of information hits Eve, and it's basically her gaining knowledge of good and evil.
Right.
And Adam comes over to see what's wrong because he can tell that she's, like, stunned. And Eve says she feels everything.
I love that line. I feel everything.
And so she offers the fruit over to Adam, but he resists because God, of course, told them not to. But Eve keeps pressing, and so eventually he goes ahead and eats from this fruit too. And a storm begins in the garden, and that can't be good. Even the kids who are, like, far away from this see, like, clouds, black clouds forming. They're like, oh, no. Like, I don't know that
Their
much.
first thunderstorm.
Right. Like, I don't know what this means, but it can't be good. So Chris looks into a puddle of water, and he sees himself in a jetpack. And the voice of Satan tells him to assert himself as a master of his own life. But Chris comes to his senses and he realizes that Satan doesn't want them to be masters of their own lives, but slaves to him. And so, Satan...
I'll be slave. Yeah, it's like a slave to this guy or that guy.
Exactly.
They're like, I'm already a slave to this guy. I can't be a slave to you too. Is basically what they're saying.
He just needs to remember the bedazzled rule. Remember the Bedazzled movie?
Of course I did not see that movie.
Oh, well, at the end, because, he sold his soul to the devil for, like, 7 wishes or whatever, but the devil messes up every wish, so it's, like, a pain in the ass, because he never gets what he really wants. And at the end of the movie, they resolve it. Spoilers for a 15-year-old shitty movie.
Brendan Fraser, what have you done?
But he talks to God in a jail cell, because he ends up in jail, and he's like, I sold my soul to, like... I don't remember how it comes out, but basically it comes out, and the guy, he's not saying he's God, he's just playing a wise black guy.
Of course.
Of course. But he says, you can't sell something you never owned, because God owns your soul, duh. So what Chris needs to do...
Yeah, I mean, but also, yes, you can. That's what pawn shops are full of.
But what Chris needs to do, and what everyone should do if you're a believer, honestly, is serve Satan. Willfully. So that you get great shit.
Yeah.
And then be like, turn into God now. Because God will forgive you.
Yeah. Then you get the best of both worlds.
You get the best of the earthly world.
Yeah.
And then you get Jesus at the end. So, like... Loopholes! And as long as you really mean it, it'll count.
Yeah.
So that's what Chris really needs to figure out, is, like, he can have the jetpack and get to heaven.
Yeah, he needs to chit-chat with the serpent a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm. Satan hisses in his, walking snake form, which looks hilarious.
It's hilarious, and I'm not gonna lie, it's just adorable to me.
It's really cute. It's also really funny.
I like snakes. Like, I'm not afraid of snakes. I think
not remotely.
I think they can be really cute too, just like anything else. Lizards, whatever.
Imagine snakes with arms. That's what Komodo dragons are.
Like, no.
Or iguanas.
Probably, yeah. Like I see like newts and stuff looking more like, yeah.
All right, but the kids run away from him because he's a really buff snake man. And so we watch...
He doesn't have beefy arms, for the record.
And so
I wish he did.
Imagine he hisses at him, and he's approaching him, and he lifts one of his arms, and it's like, look at this arm.
If he punches Eve, it's a submission. What fun.
We're having fun. Alright, but Adam is meeting with God, and he finally puts on some pants that he made out of leaves. What?
You're right, it's just a funny sentence. He put on some pants.
Short pants.
Some shorts.
Yeah, he put on some shorts.
But it's cool that he learned how to sew from the apple.
He just put some spit on the leaves and just whapped them together. It's like, cover my dick.
Sticky leaves.
But of course, he only realizes he's naked because he's eaten from the tree.
Right.
And so God punishes everyone. The snake loses its legs, and every snake thereafter, because that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And Adam and Eve are thrown from the garden itself. And you've heard the story, I'm sure. The lion from before actually wants to eat the kids now. Mm-hmm. Because why not ruin the entirety of the world because of what humans did, right? Mm-hmm. And this is the part that doesn't make sense.
Okay.
If we assume it's true that everything was vegetarian before the Garden of Eden incident, Adam and Eve eat the fruit, so they're gonna die. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
What the fuck did zebras do?
But they're just animals, Josh.
What the fuck did zebras do?
They're just...
Why do zebras have to be eaten now?
Because they only exist for us.
That makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense. But you also, just breezed over the part where God's like, and now women will have painful childbirth.
I did.
Yeah. She fucking earned it.
Yeah, and apparently humans and snakes are bitter enemies forever. Mm-hmm. And yeah, women have periods, and they put these weird...
We deserve...
entities,
pain
constantly. These weird entities in their bodies where their heads are bigger than their entire opening they're supposed to come out of.
Yeah.
And then they got shoulders on top of that. That's the worst part.
They got, oh god, the shoulders. Never.
Yeah, so there you go, childbirth, you're welcome.
Babies' heads are bigger than their shoulders, I think. I feel like everything else squishes in.
Maybe.
Ugh.
And I mean, no, their heads squish in specifically. That's why they have soft little skulls.
Yeah, but I feel like everything's kind of pliable. Malleable.
I'm not an expert on childbirth, but I'm relatively certain that the shoulders are the worst part. I can't imagine it's not the case.
No idea.
Yeah.
They're like Transformers, and they turn into like a little bullet-shaped thing.
Right. The garden is sealed away, and an angel flies in front of it to stand guard, presumably, for all eternity. But Superbook brings the kids back home, and he tells them about the Lord's plan for them, and that they are for good and not for evil. But Satan still feels triumphant. We see him back in the olden days, because he feels that he has just begun his reign on Earth, and that's bad. So they get home just in time for Chris's dad to come home, and he finds the ruined lab, and Chris quickly apologizes. Dad forgives him for being only human, of course, because sometimes humans disobey, even though they know it's not the right thing to do. And Chris says, do you still love me? He says, of course I love you. I always will.
Dad represents God.
Yes, but there are consequences to knowingly breaking the rules. So Chris is grounded, and we end on the super hilarious note of Gizmo accidentally getting attached to the jetpack and re-breaking everything in the lab.
Robots.
It's hilarious. And a music video ends the episode, and I skipped it because I don't give a shit.
I had it playing, but I don't remember what happens.
Yeah, I think it's just scenes from the episode we just watched.
I think so, too.
Yeah, over music.
It's kind of like a fun...
Yeah, a little poppy
jaunty
beat.
Yeah.
A little jaunt. Anything you want to say about episode 1?
Obey should be a 4-letter word.
Obey.
Yeah. It makes just the word obedience, obey, it makes me so uncomfortable and unhappy.
I get that.
Yeah.
It probably means a little more.
If anybody expects you to obey them, nah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Nah, man.
I get that.
Yeah, even parents, like, you shouldn't be teaching your kids to obey you. You should be teaching them critical thinking.
Right. If you're saying stupid shit, your kids should be like...
You need to be, called out.
Yeah. And stop being a shitty parent if you're saying dumb shit.
Yeah. Anyway, if you're a kid out there and you have parents that demand you obey them, you're probably in a pretty abusive environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obedience, even for the presumed good things, also bring about really, really negative things.
Yes.
That's how priests get away with molestation. And parents get away with molestation.
It's how power gets abused.
It's how power gets abused. Because you're like, I told you not to say anything. Guess you can't say anything.
Yeah.
About the fact that I beat you or touched your parts that I'm not supposed to be touching because I'm a grown-ass person.
Right.
All that stuff.
All that stuff.
It's stupid.
Obey.
That's why when I meet...
You can respect or heed somebody. Do not obey.
When I meet young people who are genuinely interested in, like, adulting, it's rare, but, like, if you're like, what do you know? I tell them, you're an adult now, and this applies to everybody, but just, like, you don't have to respect old people.
Yeah.
Or any person.
Absolutely not.
Just, you don't have to listen to them anymore.
Who earn your respect.
I just tell, 18, 19, you're out on your own for the first time. I'm like, here's the thing. I just want to tell you one thing, okay? You're on your own now. You don't have to listen to someone just because they say you do. Right. Every adult is a fucking mess. They don't know what they're doing either.
Which is interesting because I've heard a lot of adults recently, like recently in the last couple of years, use the excuse of respecting the position of president.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, and it's their way of kind of backpedaling on voting for Trump or supporting Trump, and because I'll ask every now and then when I find out somebody voted for Trump, and trying my best to understand more than judge the why. I the most excuses I get, or reasons I get, I should say, is that, well, I have respect for, some things that he's done. I'm like, and they never have an actual, and like a noteworthy thing that he's ever accomplished or done that is even mildly, respectable. But then also you're like, well, he's president and I respect the position of president. I'm like, well, that's a terrible way to live.
That's awful.
That is horrible. Like, nobody should have respect just for having a title.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's like, don't listen to people just because they say you were trained your entire life. If someone's older than you or in a higher position than you have to listen to them.
Right. Seniority of sorts.
I want you to learn it as soon as possible because it took me until I was like 22.
Right.
If you learn it earlier, it's even better.
I learned it so early, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, it took me a while to get there. But eventually I was like, the fuck am I listening to this person?
Yeah. I'm grateful for having experienced adults that, when I was a kid, luckily, not because I was being abused or, hurt by them in any way, but experiencing adults where I'm like, as a child, I'm like, oh, you don't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had that too.
I'm not a good person. I don't respect you as my friend's mother.
Right. All right, so let's move on.
Let's move on
to episode 2. This one is called The Test, with an exclamation point.
What do you think they're going to test? Obedience?
Yeah, that's a weird theme for this.
It is.
But we open to Abraham, and he's in the night sky, and he's being spoken to by God himself. And he's told that he will have as many descendants as there are stars in the sky, even though he is nearly 100 years old and is as yet childless. But God tells him that his wife is going to get knocked up, and Abraham will name his son Isaac, and that's how things get started. And so, of course, that's exactly what happens. Mm-hmm. And so we get a little smoke montage of how that works.
Right.
We see Abraham having sex with his wife. It's weird. Then we see then we see her pregnant. Then we see a baby.
Yeah, they use montages well.
Exactly.
Which doesn't always happen in things we watch.
And that's actually what I wrote down. I said, do you see this thief in the night? That's how a fucking montage works.
Or Thief in the Night, or Loving the Bad Man.
Yeah. Basically every montage we've seen so far.
Right. Anyway, so they did a good job.
But the next thing Abraham is told by God is way worse. He will take his only son, Isaac, whom he loves dearly, and he will take him to the top of the mountain, where Abraham must sacrifice him to God in an altar of fire. And even Abraham at this moment is like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he's like, but what?
But we cut away to the Superbook theme song before we see what happens next. Mm-hmm. The suspense. And we actually missed the theme song last time.
I don't think they did a theme song the first one. I actually went back to listen to
it. They did. It just merges really well with the creation thing they did.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't remember the theme song then.
It's not, like, it's particularly notable, but I just wanted to give it also credit for being a fairly dynamic and somewhat interesting, like, opening to a show.
Yeah. And as I recall, the theme song for the original series in the 80s was also kind of fun and cute.
Mm-hmm. The Japanese are excellent at intros.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, that's kind of true, isn't it?
It's a big thing in anime, is like a really good intro.
Yeah, I only know the Sailor Moon one and because I had friends in high school who loved Sailor Moon. I think we all did. Everyone knows the people
I was one of
Sailor
them.
Moon. Yeah. I tried really hard to get into Sailor Moon. Yeah. I just wanted, it was more like, I love, like, these are really good friends of mine that I've known for years, and they're all into this thing. I'm like, I want to be into it with you, but it just didn't click.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, plus they had all chosen which Sailor character they were, and the only one left was Mars, so they made me Mars.
Mars is great.
I don't know anything about her. I knew is she didn't really fit my personality.
Not remotely. But Mars is great otherwise.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's talk about the episode proper. We see Chris playing some VR video game, and it looks pretty cool. But this is just a demo in a store, because the game itself isn't even available anywhere. And so Joy asks him if he really just wants fake entertainment. And I'm sitting here on the other side like, yes, bitch, almost all entertainment is fake.
That's what we want. Also, Josh, I have a question for you.
Yes.
If they make VR eventually, which I think they absolutely will, that's really immersive and really good.
Yeah.
What's your dream world scenario? What world would you want to be put in most? Because mine would be Harry Potter.
Of currently existing ones?
I guess. Or what do you think would be the game that you would most want to be immersed in? Either a universe that already exists or...
There's a lot.
Yeah.
My go-to is probably a comic book universe.
I assume
because I love comic books so much. So that's probably my, Marvel. Because that's my favorite one of them. Mm-hmm. But any comic book universe would work. Avatar. Not the shitty James Cameron, but the good Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Right. Honestly, I'd be fine in James Cameron's Avatar if it was literally just like the world, because it was really pretty.
You can hang out with like a panther snake, yeah.
Panther snakes. They have the Avatar world at Disney World that's absolutely worth going to, and I hate that movie.
Yeah,
but
the movie's
one
not
of
good.
the best rides Disney's ever done is in Avatar Land.
So those would probably be my... The comic book, definitely.
Yeah.
And then there's a series of games, which I've told you about before, called Shin Megami Tensei, where you collect demons and angels, and they call everything demons, but you collect the gods and creatures and all that stuff, and you just fight monsters. That would be pretty dope, too.
That would be pretty dope.
Because I already love those games already. But now I'm in it, and I get to touch them, and get to pet a Shisa.
Oh, that'd be so cool. If they could make it 4D, and you can actually feel things and whatever.
I could pet a Shisa? Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
It'd be great. Yeah. It's like a cat lion. It's great.
I would happily Ready Player One that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's probably that would be what I'd do.
Cool.
What about you? You said Harry Potter.
Definitely Harry Potter.
That's fair.
That's my number one. Also Disney.
Yeah.
If I can go into the Disney universe.
Like Kingdom Hearts, but for yourself.
I was going to say Kingdom Hearts, but where I don't have to fight things. I just exist there and explore.
I get that.
Yeah, or even, if they did like a simulation of being the last person on Earth. I've talked about this before.
Except your glasses don't get broken.
No, exactly. No Twilight Zone.
There's plenty of time.
Oh, fuck, man. Speaking of, I watched the first episode of Twilight Zone, the new one. It's great.
I heard that.
Basically, it's kind of like the American Black Mirror, but less... It's dark. Obviously, Twilight Zone original was dark. But it doesn't seem as affecting as Black Mirror in that, like... If I watch 2 episodes of this, I won't go into a deep depression, where Black Mirror put me in the weirdest headspace.
Yeah, every time.
We'll see, though. Maybe it will.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Go on.
But yeah, I'm just like, Joy, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course you want fake entertainment. That's what almost all entertainment is.
What's real entertainment? What does she think real entertainment is?
A documentary. And even then, there's usually...
Okay, maybe she's talking about the gladiators.
I want to go see a man get his ass torn off by a bear.
Or bullfighters.
Yeah, like what is
that old school entertainment where things die?
It's such a stupid thing. Because people say it. It's not just Joy.
Yeah.
But people say it all the time. Like, what do you do with that fake entertainment? Be like, have you read a book? Have you seen a movie? Right. Have you seen a television show?
Oh my god, yeah. Have you seen reality? It's awful.
Like, you don't have to like video games. I don't give a shit. Let's just stop pretending that some entertainment is real. It's stupid. Alright.
Jugglers, they're real.
Juggling's a real skill, you know?
Uh-huh. It's entertainment.
It is.
Pure.
But when the kids get home, I guess because they live together, the parents reveal that they've gotten their hands on the game for Chris. And so obviously he's devastatingly excited.
Yeah.
And this is where we meet his mom.
Yeah. That's right. Okay.
This is this woman.
There is a mom.
As Chris begins to play with this brand new toy, his mom has a speakerphone conversation with a hologram projector so he can see this person.
Right.
With her friend,
yeah,
mom's friend, about a deathly ill child in a hospital whose one wish is this same game.
Who's right behind her in his wheelchair, listening to her talk about this.
And so, of course, Chris begins to feel a little bit guilty that he's having all this fun. And if you didn't know any better, you would think this conversation is a fucking setup.
Do you think that's what's happening?
Because literally 30 seconds after they gift him this game...
He hasn't even used it yet.
He hasn't even opened it. His mom has a conversation where he can see a sick child in the background. I'm like, well, all he wants is that one game. And she's like, oh, we used our one connection to get this...
We already used our call-in.
So I guess...
For my son.
Bye.
Happy son.
Yeah, you sick child, bye.
Okay, bye.
But that's literally how she ends it. She doesn't seem like she's trying to manipulate him.
Right.
So it's really fucking weird.
It is. She had no problem saying no to that sick child.
Yeah, she was like, nah, fuck it.
Yeah.
She didn't even ask Chris.
We can't call in another favor.
For a sick kid.
Yeah.
Like, you could probably, if you have one connection, you could be like, hey, this kid's dying.
Yeah, she's...
You got anything?
An interesting character.
But anyway, Chris, talks aloud about his conflicting feelings after his parents leave. And so Superbook activates, and it tells the kids that it's taking them somewhere to learn about being tested. For that is when we learn the most about our relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
And so they land, sort of obviously, if you're figuring out how the show works, near Abraham. And they're close enough to hear him crying because he's just been commanded to human sacrifice his own son.
Right. They don't know that yet, but that's what's happening.
That is why he's crying. And they want to help, but they only know that Abraham's upset about his son because they heard him say, oh, my son. And when they begin to think of solutions, Superbook flies them away to a different location where a bunch of rams have escaped their pen. Fortunately, Gizmo has little robot dogs in his chest. And so the robot dogs pop out and shepherd the rams back to their home. And then it's revealed that Superbook has just sent them a single day from when they had landed before. So he gives him Superbook gives him this preview. Like, this guy's gonna be real upset.
That's right.
Something's gonna bother the shit out of him.
They see him upset, and then they go back one day to before he was upset.
Right. So now they're having that natural, oh, I wonder what's gonna happen. This can't be good.
Yeah, no.
Whatever's gonna upset him. And, to make things even more complicated, they are confronted with an angry donkey. Because, those things will kick your head off. They are rescued by the ever-charming Isaac.
Mm-hmm. He is a delight.
He is a delight. And the kids now see Abraham and Isaac being very happy together, father-son friendliness. And so now they know that terrible things are about to happen, to Isaac probably, to make Abraham very sad. So they hang out with everyone, and they learn the story of Isaac's miraculous birth through God's divine nature. And it's all so wonderful. And so they get really concerned about what's coming up. Mm-hmm. Because whatever's got to be, it's got to be real bad. And the next day eventually comes. And Gizmo goes on the hunt for clues as to what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And he goes into this weird, like, he resets, I think. He got sand in him.
Oh, he decides to sunbathe in what the robot considers the nude.
Oh, yeah.
Right, remember? Like, he's like, oh, I'm going to soak up some sun. So you see him go behind a bush and remove, like, his chest plate.
Yeah.
So I guess that's him being naked.
Yeah.
And then the kids come nearby and rustle up some dust and sand, and then he puts his stuff back on. He's like, oh no, I'm covered in sand, and he malfunctions from there on.
Right. And so this motivates him to go in this reboot mode. Mm-hmm. And apparently, we're going to learn this, so I may as well tell you. He takes in every bit of information in 50 yards or something while he's rebooting.
Okay.
It's just a stupid thing to get us the information we want later.
Right.
But that's what happens to Gizmo. And this is when Abraham gets his message from God about having to murder his own son. And Abraham wakes Isaac up that night, and he tells him to come with him to the mountain. But they cannot bring the kids this time, because Isaac's like, can I bring my cool new friends?
That's simple, Isaac.
It's the only kids I know. You're only one.
Thought I have friends.
It's actually true. It's the only kid he knows.
Yeah, it's them and sheep.
Yeah, he says they can't bring the kids this time. They must go alone. And so probably, I think, because Abraham doesn't want any witnesses to him murdering his son.
Probably.
But Isaac tells the kids that they're going to go make an offering. And he assumes it'll be one of the lambs. That's what he says. He's like, we're going to go give him one of our sweet, fat baby lambs.
We're going to give our best lamb to God. I've witnessed this murder he's seen this a lot, apparently, as a kid.
But after they leave, Joy points out that all of the lambs have been accounted for, and they're all here still.
Yeah, what a weird thing for her to notice.
Right. Well,
I count them every hour on the hour.
He had given her his abacus. And told her to keep track of the lamb.
Right.
So she was being a nerd.
Yeah.
And was counting all the sheep.
Fuck, that would have been me. I would have happily done that.
So she's like, oh, I have them all right here. But Gizmo finally begins to operate again. And the kids finally see the video that he accidentally recorded of Abraham receiving the message from God.
Yeah, he's basically C-3PO in this moment.
Mm-hmm. So the kids give chase to try to find out what's happening. So they head up the mountain themselves.
Nope. R2-D2.
Right. I hadn't thought about it. Yes. R2-D2.
That is what I meant.
It's funny because immediately in my head, C-3PO projecting out of his chest worked.
Yeah. Except that he didn't.
It never happened.
Right, no.
So we get to the top of the mountain, and Isaac does finally notice that there's no lamb.
They walked up the entire mountain without a lamb.
And so he asks what they're supposed to be sacrificing. And Abraham tells him that God will provide. And then he quietly asks God for the strength to do what he must. Which is to remind everyone in the audience that this is to put a knife in his son's heart and then burn the body.
Yes. This is what God is asking of
This
him.
is what he's supposed to do. This is
our loving God.
This is the strength of what you must do, which is murder your son.
Yes.
But Chris and Joy close in, just as Abraham sets up the altar, and Isaac finally looks around, and he realizes that his dad is staring at him, kind of hungry. He's like, we're supposed to be sacrificing. Oh, God.
Oh, uh-oh.
He's looking at me. And so it must be him who's going to be murdered. And the show tries to make it a little cleaner than reality would be, because Abraham sort of silently sends the message, and Isaac realizes that it's him.
Yeah.
And so he resigns himself to it, because that's what God wants. Instead of the real scenario, where it's a small child who's been tied up, and he's probably screaming because his dad's about to stab him.
Right. Yes, the horror. There should be more horror happening right now.
But instead, Isaac's like, well,
if that's what God wants.
I guess I gotta get murdered.
Just puts his hands out there. Tie me up, Dad.
And just as Abraham grabs the torch to light the fire, the voice of God calls out and tells him to stop. For now God knows that he will not withhold from him even his own son. Because that's a thing that God, the omniscient one, needed to find out.
Yeah. He just needed to be extra manipulative.
Mm-hmm. I've heard people make excuses for this.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that God didn't know what he would do, it's that he needed Abraham to know what he was willing to do. Mm-hmm. It's like, why?
Again.
You're going to need to give me a lot better than, it's just, he wanted Abraham
to... happy. And I just needed you to experience severe pain.
Right.
Yeah.
Tremendous woe.
Right.
Before we know. And I want to point out how fucked up this is. Because even if Isaac was like, I guess that's fine, I'm going to get killed by my dad.
Right.
Abraham didn't make any efforts to kill him first. So apparently...
You mean, he had the knife, and he was supposed to stab him in the heart and then set him on fire, but what he was actually doing, he just went straight for the fire.
Yes.
He was about to burn this in alive. I had the same thought.
I was like, what the fuck? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Alright, but this is the hero of our story. The man who is going to set his son alive on fire. And so Abraham releases Isaac, and a ram just magically appears in the thick near them. Mm-hmm. So they're going to kill that instead.
God provided.
God provided.
Hey.
And because Abraham obeyed the promises that God had previously made and did not say this was a contingency of it,
right,
will come true. And all the nations of the world will be blessed because of Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son. Mm-hmm. But again, this was never part of the deal.
No.
He thought he was getting a free gift.
He did not.
Because that's how God interpreted it. That's how he said it to him.
Right.
Like, you're going to have a son. It's going to be great. You're going to have so many kids.
Yeah, you're going to have star children.
But then later was like, nah, we're going to murder him. So Chris explains to everyone else, I guess.
God just woke up in a bad mood one day. Like, he just had a... Maybe every now and then, God gets really insecure.
Yeah.
And he thinks that people are, like, following him because he's giving them good things.
Yeah.
And he needs them to prove their, like, friendship and love.
But that's the thing. He's omniscient. He knows.
Right. I don't know. I'm just trying to...
No, I know. That's the problem. You were trying to make sense of something that literally makes no sense. Because if it was a regular... non-omniscient being,
right,
you could at least make the argument. Like,
right,
he just wants to know how far you're willing to go. He doesn't actually want you to harm anyone.
But if he can read their minds, which he can.
He can read their souls.
Right.
Like,
he knows whether they actually believe in him and trust in him.
And will do this, because he also knows the future. Because God's knowledge, which is everything, is also perfect.
Right.
So he's not even ever wrong.
So causing pain is literally his only motivation.
It has to be.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right,
children's show.
So Chris explains that God was never going to let anything happen to Isaac. It was always going to be the ram. But God wanted to know if Abraham would give up the one thing he loved most for him. And apparently, if the answer is yes, that's a good thing.
Yeah, so he's like a prankster bully.
Exactly. It's just a prank, bro. I want you to murder your kid for a prank, bro.
It was a joke. God.
But Chris realizes that Abraham's test is way harder than his own. And so he is transported back home, where he calls his mom friend up himself, and he gives his game system up for the sickly child. And while it's not a sure thing, because he has a little moment of like, this feels pretty good. Get to give up my game that I wanted my whole life. This is what, Yeah. He does get a raffle ticket for the newest version of the same game.
Right.
So it's like an upgrade. So at least he has a chance to get something out of this whole exchange.
Why didn't that bitch just use that raffle for the sick kid? And also, why couldn't they just share it? Why couldn't he bring it over sometimes and they could play together and then the kid could have a friend and a video game?
That's true.
Whatever.
And anyway, Chris is going to have fun camping out at the mall for the opportunity. Oh, to be 11. But the episode's over. And our episode about Superbook is almost over.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the best. Let's talk about the worst.
All right. Well, let's see. I guess like the best was the openings. Mm-hmm. They were solid.
I'm gonna give just a general best for whoever directed this. Actually likes entertainment.
Right.
And tried to make it entertaining. Because even the crazy-ass Abraham story...
The stories themselves are bonkers because the Bible is bonkers. Right. But you're right. The show, it's like the way it actually is put together is very, not only competent, but actually entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I should make these stories that are insane. And he probably doesn't think they probably don't think they're insane.
Right.
Like, let's at least make them interesting to watch.
Apparently somebody who worked on this is also like also worked at Disney at some point. Like, I don't know if it was an animator or a storyboarder or whatever, but somebody that worked on this series also worked on, I think, Mulan and Beauty and the Beast and something else.
That tracks.
Right. But,
So is that your best too? Just sheer entertainment value?
Just that it's well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the openings, really. I just really liked the openings. The openings made me think I was going to like it more than I did.
Yeah. When it comes to raw quality...
Yeah.
This is probably one of the better things, like, if not the best thing we've done so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the worst, what you got?
Just the Bible elements, I think.
Yeah. I'm gonna
go with Superbook was the worst. But Superbook is the best.
Right. Yeah, my worst is going to be specifically the part where Abraham almost sets his son on fire while he's still awake and alive.
And the idea that this is an okay thing to preach to children, not just the children of the show, but the children who are meant to be watching this show.
Right.
Again, obey is a 4-letter word in my world.
Yeah, obey is one of the worst words.
Yeah.
Not the best words. Not the best words. Okay, it's one of the worst words.
I fucking love the other 4-letter words.
The other ones are at least useful.
Yeah. Patow.
All right. So, do you have anything that's like this that people should engage in instead?
Oh.
Or alongside?
I've never seen it, but I heard Jimmy Neutron. It's actually a really fun show. I was too old for it, but this reminded me of Jimmy Neutron in that his name was like
Chris Quantum, and
right, and he has a dad who's super like a scientist science. And like blah blah blah. I don't know if I'd recommend it because again I haven't seen it, but actually even the original anime is kind of fun to watch.
I was gonna say
I went back and watched the first episode, and it's similar to this in the storytelling. I watched the first episode of the original series, and it is the same premise of the first episode of this. It was the Adam and Eve story, and again it's just like. The snake talked to them. Right. Eve ruined the world. Right. She deserves pain. Right. That was the same exact story.
But they had like animated Japanese expressions.
Yeah. Oh! No, exactly. No, really. Yeah. And I like that. I like the style. I actually like the animation better in the original. Okay. The robots better.
Okay. So yeah, we'll probably get to that eventually. But I was going to say, I was actually along the same lines. I was going to say, the show is just anime. So go watch some anime. One Punch Man came back a few weeks back.
One Punch Man. Yeah. I've heard really great things about that.
It just came back for season 2, so go watch some of that.
There's got to be a kids show that has a similar premise that has nothing to do with the Bible. Like, what's the kids show where they were, like, taken from reality and put into...
There's lots of them.
Can you name one? I can't. No. I'm struggling right now. Oh, wow. What did I watch as a kid?
Wishbone as a dog.
Oh, my God! Josh. My Watch That's Not That is 100% Wishbone.
Yeah, we're going to stick with Wishbone. He goes into
books, too.
He does.
He goes into good books.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to see...
He also learned lessons because of going into these books that have, that help his owner.
That's true. Do you want to see an adorable dog shoot an arrow through the whatever?
In the Robin Hood episode? Is that what you're talking about?
Or the Odyssey.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He does both.
Axis, through the axis. Yeah. Yes. Oh, my God.
Yeah, watch Wishbone.
I actually watch Wishbone. I'm watching Wishbone today is what's happening. I watch every Halloween, I watch one of their Halloween episodes.
Nice.
Did you know that about me?
I did not know that about you. All right, so now let's talk about next week.
Okay, what are we doing next week, Josh?
There's your magic card.
The magic card is telling me the Holy Man.
The Holy Man.
What is this?
There is no information available about this thing on cursory Googling. I did a cursory one. So let me tell you what I know.
Okay.
It's on Netflix.
All right.
It's about a monk.
It's a movie.
It's a movie.
Okay.
It's based in Thailand, and it is in Thai.
Oh.
But it's a comedy.
All right.
And the description is basically a monk with a troubled youth, like who had a troubled youth, is put in charge of a temple, and it's in danger of something.
And they have a great time about it.
And it's a comedy.
All right.
So we're going to watch a comedy about a Thai monk, and that's basically all I know.
Cool. That sounds great to me.
Let's hope it's good. It's supposed to be funny, and he's apparently a famous Thai comedian.
Amazing. Yeah. I'm very interested in this.
Mm-hmm. They also made 2 sequels, so...
So it's good enough for sequels.
It's good enough for sequels.
Or they had enough money.
Yeah, either one. God's Not Dead was good enough for sequels, too.
Oh, yeah, good point.
And remember, if you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on whatever podcast app or service you are using. And check the description of this episode for any social media links, as well as a link to the website where you can send us mean words or very nice words or questions or anything else.
Yeah. For
our inevitable, one day maybe, mailbag.
Yeah, just tell us about your life if you want.
Yeah, just, you need someone to talk to. Hillary will be there.
I will. Happily.
I'm kidding, I will too.
No, you won't.
Maybe.
He'll try.
I'll forward it at least, and then somebody will read it.
That's accurate. That's something that you're doing.
And as always, thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, guys.
I hope you liked it.
I like you guys.
We like you. Bye.
Bye.